am Mark Zickrey, and I am the creator of Space Command, and this is my wife Elaine, and we're the writer, director, producers of Space Command. We've written hundreds of hours of network TV. We work for all the major studios and networks. Our credits include Star Trek: The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Babylon 5, Sliders, Friday the 13th series, Smurfs, He-Man, Super Friends, Real Ghostbusters, every show you've ever watched, pretty much. And so it always bugged me that some of the greatest shows that you guys would have loved did not get seen because the studios and the networks pulled the plug on them before you ever got to see them. For instance, although I was a producer on Sliders, which was a show I really enjoyed writing and producing, a superior show was a show called Doorways that George R.R. Martin created about people sliding between parallel Earths, parallel dimensions. I liked that pilot better. It was in the same year as Sliders, but that did not get greenlit, so George R.R. Martin had to wait until Game of Thrones to get the kind of notice that he really deserved. So I thought, well, rather than going the studio and the network route and risking getting cut off at script or at pilot, I would go directly to my audience and via Kickstarter and selling investment shares for $7,500 each. So far I've been able to raise $3 million, over $3 million. And that allowed us to open a studio and shoot the first 5 hours of Space Command. We're shooting the 6th now. And it stars Doug Jones, Mira Furlan, Robert Picardo, Christina Moses, Barbara Bain, on and on, Doug Jones, on and on. Tons and tons of your favorite actors. And so what we're going to show you now is like a short teaser, and then we'll be showing some clips throughout to introduce who's on the panels.
Return to your ship, Captain.
Sir.
It's possible his 3 laws programming is still intact.
Whether he's making a conscious choice.
There are thousands of them.
I don't know who he's become. I just want to see my son again.
Then we have to convince him to let us go.
And how do you propose to do that?
Appeal to his humanity.
What do you see?
Endless possibilities and limited options.
I know what you're doing. Slave revolts tend to go badly.
Moses did all right?
Reports from the outer worlds and moons. Synthetics taking ships, disabling anybody's ability to hinder or pursue them.
Captain, target ship coming into view.
Bradbury, match their speed.
Yes, sir.
Evasive!
What have you done?
Status on the Templar.
Dead in the water. Emergency pressure door sealed, but she's venting atmosphere.
We've got intruders.
You are hopelessly outnumbered, you know.
Freedom.
High Command has ordered that fugitive synthetics be blasted from the sky.
What is that?
A weapons array.
It could destroy worlds.
Thank you. And I'll, if anyone wants me to put this back on, I will, but this allows me to actually speak to you, which is helpful. With Space Command, what I wanted to do was create a show that would inspire people the way Star Trek inspired me when I was a kid. Where you had characters reaching out across boundaries and barriers, people who are driven by compassion and courage to create a future worth living in. And so throughout Space Command, we connect with these characters because, first of all, we like them. Secondly, we care about what they care about. And thirdly, they're making brave, emotional choices and standing up for each other. And I think it's really, really important. Is there anything you want to add, Elaine, in that regard?
Oh, well, the one thing that we were a bit put off by is our inability to connect to a lot of the characters that were on television,
yeah.
Because they never faced strong moral choices, difficult choices. and because they didn't face them, that we didn't see them overcoming them. And so what we wanted to do was, we knew that so many, at least for me when I was growing up, so many of my heroes were formulated from film and television and books. And they were my samples, and they gave me the courage to be the kind of person that I wanted to be. And so what we really wanted to do, so it was difficult to connect to characters who weren't struggling toward being somebody and something better. And so what we have in our characters are many of them who face different choices, and in the end, they come through for each other, and they come through on the side of the angels.
Yes.
And that, I thought, were journeys that we all deserve to be supported with.
Yes.
Those are choices that we all deserve support for.
Yes.
And so that was how we designed the characters.
Yeah, and we cast all these actors that we'd worked with before, and you saw them in there. Now, also, by the way, all moral choices and compassion is great, but buttons are better. So here's buttons for all of you, Space Command buttons. And, now we're talking. And now also, I'll introduce our cast and crew by showing some clips. Next in line after Elaine, who writes and directs and produces with me, is Victor Manso, who plays Lieutenant Borges, and we will show a little moment of him, just a clip. And also, I have a Mr. Sci-Fi YouTube channel, and a lot of Space Command has been posted there, more to come. And you can see all that and everything else I'm up to. So let's see Victor. Here we go. Here's Victor's clip.
Pues ya estoy aquí. O sea, estoy haciendo algo útil. Para tu comunidad. ¿Y qué si pienso que todo el sistema solar es mi comunidad? Siempre la misma excusa. Te llamé para pedirte tu bendición. Te he extrañado mucho, papá.
Cool. During the pandemic, since all our actors were stuck at home, we actually had them shoot a 2-hour episode using their own cameras in their own homes to keep them safe. And it ended up, we shot stuff in LA, New York, Saskatchewan, London, Portugal, and I wrote the scene for Victor. It's a scene about him and his father. Again, you can watch, it's an episode called Ripple Effect, and it's on Mr. Sci-Fi. Victor, I don't know if you want to talk about this stuff at all?
Sure, yeah. That was, first of all, that was a great thing to have to help me with my sanity during the pandemic. But it was a great opportunity to also have the chance to use my native language and introduce it to the story. Because at the end of the day, I feel like the whole point of the world becoming bigger is us becoming closer.
Yes.
Or at least that should be the connection. So it was a pleasure not just to do my language, but also do it in my accent. I got to do Carlos Montilla, who is the other actor. He's a great actor from back home that I had the opportunity to work with before. And when Mark told me that he was looking for someone to play my dad, I was like, I know someone that it would be great because we come from the same place, so we already have that energy. And I think that's the beauty of it. One of the beautiful things that we continue to see is that inclusion is, to me, working in projects that have space, sci-fi, future, involved, the more we see this diversity, the more we create this effect where we are growing up in a multicolored, multi-ethnic existence where it's no longer the exception or the rare thing, where we're like, oh, how cool that has so many diverse people. I think now it's aiming to that place where that's the thing that makes sense, because let's look around. Like, we can look around in this convention or anywhere and we see that. And so getting to take a Venezuelan to space, thank you, Mark.
Yes, you're welcome. You're welcome. And it's funny because all of the Space Command characters are named after classic science fiction writers, Asimov, Bradbury, Sturgeon, etc. And originally the character's name, when I cast Victor, was Murray Leinster, who was a science fiction writer of the 50s and 60s, but he doesn't look like a Murray Leinster, so I had to find a fantasy writer who was Latino, so I found Jorge Luis Borges, who was a very famous and wonderful Argentinian writer, and so he became Lieutenant Jorge Borges. So So great. And by the way, we passed out Space Command buttons, so anyone who didn't get the buttons, well, you know, you're screwed. No, it's we have a few more, so we'll pass them around again. But so now we get to the wonderful Angelique Scott, and she plays Lieutenant Delaney Chilton. We've established in our first 2-hour episode that the ship's engineer on the Paladin, our hero's spaceship, is Lieutenant Chilton, named after Charles Chilton, who wrote Journey into Space, which was a great British radio science fiction show of the 50s. And so Angelique plays his daughter in Ripple Effect, our second 2-hour episode, and then also in Great Solar War, which we'll be shooting this upcoming year.
My dad's always been my hero. He fought in the war in Sri Lanka, but he always came home. So it was no surprise that when I grew up, I wanted to be just like him. Ta-da!
What?
I'm your father. I adore you.
So the adventure continues. Only now, it will be the two of us.
And that's just a little clip of that. So, Angelique, do you want to speak to all of us?
Of course.
Angelique's working with us on the production side as well as being an actor in Space Command. So.
Yes, it's really a lot of fun. I'm the executive coordinator for Space Command. I work with Mark and Elaine, and I'm also Lieutenant Delaney Chilton in Space Command. Filming this scene was really a lot of fun. It's a nice featurette. What I like about this character of Lieutenant Delaney Chilton is that she is very bold. She's very strong. Now, her father doesn't want her to go into Space Command, but of course she does because she really looks up to her father, and her father is her hero. So I think this scene really speaks to the beautiful relationship between father and daughter, and I really am grateful to be part of it.
Great. So thank you. Yay, Angelique. Now, next to her is the wonderful Tahani Farr. Now, Tahani, you might think is an actress, but she's not. She is a brilliant artist. And maybe she'll eventually become an actress. We'll convince her to be in the Spanish scene with Victor. So, so what we're going to show you now, Tahani I met at the World Science Fiction Convention, and my idea with Space Command is everything in Space Command is canon. The graphic novels, the audio plays, the novels, the show. Okay? So everything adds to the whole picture. And so I knew from the beginning that I've always loved audio drama. So I did a prequel. I wrote a prequel called United Planet that takes place 30 years earlier than the first 2 hours of the show. And when I met Tahani, I wanted to be doing graphic novels as well. And so Tahani did the graphic novel version of the audio play that we recorded with our full cast. And so we've combined those into what's called an animatic, which is an animated storyboard. So I'll show you the opening scene of that in just 1 second, as soon as I get to it. Here it is. Here we go.
30 years from now.
They say the Emperor Nero fiddled while Rome burned. Turns out the story's bullshit. But that's what we were doing for decades. Heating the world up while we were turning a buck. Fighting our stupid wars till the whole shebang went up like a matchstick. Sank under the waves, people lost their homes, starved, died by the millions. Here we are in this friggin' hellhole. What do they call this one? Sri Lanka.
Maintaining cruising altitude.
We're still fighting each other like it matters. Christ. What do we got here?
Hunter-killer drones 200 miles and closing.
Launch decoys.
Decoys ineffective. Drones still locked on target. 50, 40,
There you are, you
30,
bastards.
20, 10, 9, 8, 7, impact imminent. 5, 4.
Arm ejection seat.
Ejection seat on.
Eject. Be free. God damn it. There's the other one.
That gives you a feeling for wonderful artwork. We were printing the graphic novel in 4 issues of the Space Command comic book, and then we'll bundle them together into a graphic novel. And at which point, of course, we'll finish the animatic. And we're about halfway through the graphic novel now in terms of the artwork. And again, the audio play has all of our major cast. That was Michael Harney from Orange is the New Black and Project Blue Book and many other shows. And we also have Billy Mummy and Mira Furlan, as I mentioned, and so forth. So it's quite a journey. I don't know if you want to speak about the adventure of drawing these wonderful characters.
Yes, hello everyone. Like Mark said, I began drawing graphic novel thank you to Mark, because before this I was just doing traditional cover art, and I met him at a World Con and he was like, I bet you can do comic. And I was like, no, I cannot do that ever. And he was like, yes you can. And thanks to that and him believing in my work, now we've already been doing 40, I think. We're on page 40.
Yeah.
So we're already halfway through all this graphic novel. I've learned so much. I started literally looking up on internet, what is a panel? How do you put, like, because I didn't know much before this. I read a lot of sci-fi, but I did not know much about doing comics. So this has been a whole journey for me. And also it's pretty unique because I'm in a lot of conventions and a lot of places, and there are not that many female comic artists that's doing what I'm doing right now, and especially not Latina either. I'm half Mexican. I grew up most of my life in Mexico. So to take this back to Jalapa, Veracruz, from where I am, and to inspire little girls from my hometown to be into sci-fi and to be into comics, and for them to see that this is possible for them, for me it's very inspiring. And it's all thanks to Mark and his motivation as an amazing person that's always working all the time we speak. He's always in 1,000 things. So I'm really thankful for this opportunity and to learn as much as what I've learned all this past comic.
Cool. That's great. Now next up, if I can see the figure next to Hani, is Howard Benjamin. Now Howard is a man of many talents. He's a founder of the TV Critics Association, among other things, so he's going to give us a good review, I'm sure. And but he's also our sound guy on Space Command. And what everyone who works with me eventually learns is that they'll appear on camera one way or another. And so Howard is in our second 2-hour story. Space Command is structured as 2-hour stories that split down the middle into 1-hour episodes, and the 2-hour stories tell a beginning, middle, and end, but they form a larger story arc over the first season of 14 hours. And so Howard is at the very beginning of our second 2-hour episode, which is called Forgiveness. It doesn't have sound mix or color correction or any things. It's you'll be seeing a moment of Howard's performance that's totally without any of the bells and whistles yet, but I wanted to show something of his as well.
This is Patriarch Elias on the military transport, Alexander. We're in need of immediate... Patriarch!
That was the last contact we had.
Elias.
There's too much hunger for vengeance.
Now, and if you notice the Asian actor, that's James Hong, who played in Big Trouble in Little China and Blade Runner. Basically, I just am casting every actor whose work I love from everything I've ever seen in my life, and they've all said yes, and I'm very grateful for that. So Howard, I don't know if you want to speak about the excruciating experience of working with me, but please do.
I think it was probably one of the highlights of my life. The guy is a brilliant actor. This was his 500th performance on film or television.
James Hong, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, talk about a consummate professional. He is it. I met Marketing Lane about 15 years ago, just by happenstance. They have a thing called The Table, and I wandered in there one night with my production partner, who had just interviewed Mark because of the 50th anniversary of The Twilight Zone. Mark wrote The Twilight Zone Companion. And so my production partner said, we should check this out. So we went down there, and it became an obsession with me. I went every single week, helping to mentor people in what I know how to do. And over the course of my life, as a television critic I founded the Television Critics Association, the TCA, as well as the what used to be called the Broadcast Film Critics Association, which is now called the CCA, Critics' Choice Awards, or Critics' Choice Association. And I've interviewed 80,000 celebrities over the course of my career. And so being on the same stage and being in the same scene as somebody like James Hong was a true gift for my life. I had not planned on being an actor, but after reading the script, I noticed that there was someone by the name of Elder Howard. I asked Mark who was playing that, and he said, "You are," and that led to me going, huh? And of course, I was doing sound on Space Command, as well as the animatic that you saw. I did a lot of plays that Mark and Elaine have done over the years, where I've done the recording on that. This has just been a gift, and this is my third time at Comic-Con, actually my fourth. My first time was to interview Lita Ford, who some of you might remember as one of the Runaways. She had a comic book on Dark Horse, and I'm guessing that was like the middle 80s or something like that. It was a small gathering back then, I can guarantee you of that. And that was my first time on the train. We did take the train down today, so that's, what goes around comes around. Anyhow, being here is a true joy, and I thank you all for coming.
So now, next up is David Bartlett, who's filming this, so he's a man with many tasks, and he's also our head of physical production, running our physical studio, as well as a producer on Space Command and a man of many titles and many gifts. So, as with everyone else, I dragged him into Space Command as an actor. And so, when we did the bonus episode, with everyone stuck at home in the pandemic, we established Bill Mummy's character. He plays a character named Greg Mazzy. Bill Mummy, I've known since I was 7 when he was on Lost in Space. And of course, I interviewed him when I wrote The Twilight Zone Companion, because he wishes people to the cornfield in Twilight Zone. But we established him as a character called Greg Mazzy, who is sort of the Bill Gates of the future, or the Elon Musk of the future. And he creates artificial humans, synthetic humans, Doug Jones being one of them. And so, for Ripple Effect, we had established David as a character in the pilot, asking Greg Mazzy questions from the presentations introducing Doug Jones's character. And so for Ripple Effect, we had him a customer who's bought 2 synthetic creatures and is having some difficulty with them. So this is his video complaining to Greg Mazzy.
Having been at your first presentation of synthetics, where you made the case that they were so much better than the real stuff, humans and other things alike, and boy was I convinced. Only then, the human contingent whipped off with Dornevin, leaving all the other gizmos behind, which is what this is about. I don't know how to turn them off. I don't even know how to turn them down. And I've been calling your complaints department, and again, you have put me on hold. And I have yet to talk to a single living person, which I suppose is ironic. But the point is, I was taken in by your sales pitch, lock, stock, and barrel. And, of course, the warranty has just run out. So I need help with this. Ow! Ow!
This is a great example of the kind of collaboration that happens on Space Command. Those dogs act like that every time I come over. And
those are our dogs, by the
sometimes
way.
it's much worse. We have meetings in their apartment where those dogs are present, and that happens for about a half an hour before we can do anything. So I said, you really have to have the dogs in the show somehow. So I turned around a week later, Mark Scott, here, I've got the scene for you. And he wrote the scene with me, with the dogs. That costume came from, we had loaned a studio to some people, and they left behind about 8 feet of costumes. So I went through them, and I found that kimono, and I got that pirate shirt online for $8, and that was my costume. So that's how that works on Space Command.
Wow.
Anyway, it's never a dull moment here, including the filming of this particular little conference, but I'm really, really close to that camera. So if you guys see this later, you'll get to see what I'm seeing.
Yeah, well, great.
But anyway, so, you know, being head of physical production of Space Command is a challenge for a number of reasons, most of which I won't go into. But it's never boring, and it's always interesting to have Mark Collins say, I found some really great white leather chairs on the sidewalk by my house. Can you come and pick them up because we can use them someday?
Yes.
And they have been the lobby of our studios temporarily until the scene comes to be shot, and then we'll use them at the time. And in a very strange fortune of events, he also found a white table that matched, which was not with those chairs.
Yeah.
And about 6 months later, he found another chair and another table exactly the same.
Yes. Yeah.
On the sidewalk in the neighborhood.
Well, people, people get rid of working televisions, all sorts of stuff. They just leave them on the sidewalk in my neighborhood. It's great.
I mean, one of the places I worked before this was New World Pictures with Roger Corman, and I was I was a set carpenter with a production designer at the time doing a second film with Roger and wanting to direct his first film, and his name was Jim Cameron. So we learned all sorts of ways to make Roger's dimes stretch a very, very long way. And if you watch Galaxy of Terror, and then you turn around and watch Aliens and Terminator, you will see many examples of what we learned from Roger at that studio, and many of them have appeared in Space Command now too because of that.
Yeah.
Like using McDonald's cartons to decorate the inside of the spaceship walls to give it texture, for example.
Wow.
We haven't done that one in Space Command yet, but I've got a couple of ideas like that.
And you
Anyway,
are
so-
also on the pilot episode.
Yeah,
That's right. What's that?
You're also in the pilot episode.
Yes, he is.
I'm in the pilot episode.
Yes.
That's right. I asked a question for Mr. Mazzy.
Yes.
I guess I was so intrigued by the concept of the synthetics that's when I tried the dogs, which didn't work out as well as Dora, but we'll get them fixed.
No. Now, we have a couple more clips to show, and then we'll open it up for questions. But one thing I did want to mention is that the reason I'm going about this, as I mentioned previously, I spent decades writing solely for all the major studios and networks, and now we have our own studio. We're raising money directly from the fans. We're selling Space Command shares for $7,500 each. And the reason I went to the fans is because I trust the fans more than I trust the executives. And so far, the first hour of Space Command on a Mr. Sci-Fi YouTube channel has been viewed by more than 3 million people. 3 million people. It has a 97% thumbs up. And that's a huge, huge positive. So my goal is to change how television is made and put it in the hands of the creators. And so with Space Command, we're making Space Command. We're talking to Netflix, we're talking to Amazon, all the buyers. But at the same time, we're moving forward regardless. And Space Command is just the start of it. We're currently doing something called the Showrunners Network, where we're creating 5 additional shows to make a slate of 6 TV series. And my partners are Rockne O'Bannon, who created Farscape, Defiance, Cult, Sequest, Alien Nation. He's currently executive producer on Evil. And another partner in this project are Mark Ferguson, Hawk Ostby, who brought The Expanse to television and were showrunners on that show. And people of that caliber, plus a new Rod Serling series that I'm working on. So our goal is to change the face of television. And so the upcoming year is going to be very exciting. But also as a further gift to my fans, I just wrote a book called Greenlighting Yourself, which tells you how to do everything I have just done and more. And so that'll be coming out from my publisher, Silman James, in a few months. So again, it's all about, you can take the reins of power. You don't have to wait for the studios and networks to make things happen. So beyond that, yes, go ahead.
But
Amanda.
before you
Please.
show the next clip,
Sure.
you should say how we got these two actors.
David Bartlett and, yes. Okay, here we go. No, I know what you're talking about. Okay, because I knew when I write specific roles for specific actors, so I wrote the role for Doug Jones. I wrote the role for Mira Furlan, who many of you know we lost this past year, oddly not due to COVID, but due to West Nile virus, of all things. Brilliant actress. I worked with her on Babylon 5 as well as Space Command. And I'm very blessed to have worked with her on Space Command and have gotten some amazing work from her.
And a wonderful, wonderful woman.
Yeah, but because I knew I was using famous actors like Bob Picardo and Bruce Boxleitner and so forth, for the two of the lead roles, I decided to have a worldwide talent search. And anyone, anywhere in the world could download the audition scenes, shoot their own audition, and be considered, seriously considered, for two of the leads. And two of the lead roles were Captain Kemmer and Cadet Bradbury. And we got 7,000 inquiries, 1,200 video auditions. We ended up casting about 9 roles, ultimately. But so two of them were Captain Kemmer's, played by Ethan McDowell from Wyoming, who is now in Walking Dead, and he was previously on Doom Patrol, and Brian McClure from Iowa, who has been on Doom Patrol and Atlanta and many other shows. So they couldn't come, but they sent their greetings.
Hello Comic-Con, Ethan McDowell here, Captain Jack Kimmer, signing in live via satellite here in Atlanta, Georgia. It's not live, this isn't live, but I wish I could be there to be live with you, giving you high fives, handshakes, and saying hello. I just want to say thank you very much for all your support for all these years. Without you, we would not be able to tell such an epic story. And I'm excited that our first episode is just about wrapped up and we're gearing up to jump back in that Paladin and take off into hyperspace very, very soon. Again, thank you very much. We couldn't be telling such a hopeful vision of a future in these stories without your help. So again, thank you. If you want to find me elsewhere, you can see me as Agent Charles Forsyth in Doom Patrol, or look for me as Pope's right-hand man, Washington, as one of the Reapers in The Walking Dead, the final season, season 11. All right, enjoy the Comic-Con. I wish I could be there, but welcome back.
Great. Yay, Ethan. And this is Brian McClure, who plays Lieutenant Bradbury.
Just hang on. Hello? Hello? Oh, hey, there you guys are. What's going on? Brian McClure here, coming at you from the East Coast. Wish I could be there with you guys, but hopefully you're enjoying the convention. Wanted to wish you all happy holidays, and just very excited about everything that's going on with Space Command. Thank you all for your fanship. We really appreciate it. We couldn't be doing this without you guys. So look forward to the next time we get to be there with you guys in person. Take care. God bless.
And then finally, David Raiklen, who's our wonderful composer. For our second hour, we were able to hire an entire orchestra in Europe. And so he just sent some of the music, which our wonderful editor, Dave Edison, who's been editing everything you've been watching, put to the visuals. So we'll play 2 little clips of David Raiklen's music in the second hour of Space Command.
There are thousands of them.
It was positively identified as Dornevan.
And now he's got an army. How many casualties?
None recorded.
It's possible his 3 laws programming is still intact.
Or that he's making a conscious choice.
Try to see with your eyes, not your preconceptions. Something remarkable is happening.
Did you see those soldiers? Mama, moramo da bežimo odavde.
What do you think? He's your friend.
Was. I don't know who he's become. I just want to see my son again.
Then we have to convince him to let us go.
And how do you propose to do that?
Appeal to his humanity.
And here's the other clip of the score.
Bradbury, match their speed. Yes, sir. Captain Essex, you with me?
Right here, Jack. Anything you need.
Gwen, you think you can fire on those engines without blowing that ship up?
Tricky, sir.
Err on the side of caution.
Yes, sir.
Now we're talking.
They're firing on us!
Of course they are.
Evasive!
Lieutenant Arroyo.
My God.
What have you done?
The ship's complement is at the rear of the vessel. No one's been killed.
Status on the Templar.
Dead in the water. Emergency pressure door sealed. But she's venting atmosphere.
What time does she have?
A half hour at most.
Come about, Lieutenant.
You've got him in your sights. Go after him. Alton!
Get ready to offload the Templar's crew.
Take it. It's the last one. Take it. Look, strong is one thing. You can carry it to extremes. Come on.
Stuff. Great. And that doesn't have the final sound mix or color correction or any of that stuff yet. But we have a mic, or you can just shout out your questions. Yeah, over there.
Any plans to put these on a DVD?
Yes. Yes, essentially, once we have the digital download delivered to our backers and so forth, we'll put it on DVD and Blu-ray, and we've been working on a number of very cool extras, including deleted scenes and commentary and all of that. And in terms of the Blu-ray and DVD, what we're going to do is once we finish the first 2 hours and really look at it and say, is there stuff we want to tweak? Is there stuff we want to polish? With the first hour, what we did, we're much more transparent in our creative process than when I was working at Paramount or Universal or any of those places. And so with the first hour, what we did was we released a version of it that had everything plugged in, and it worked. But as we watched it, and then we polished it for a little while and improved the visual effects, improved things that just were kind of, it was like little grace notes. It was nothing major, but it was significant. And so I think we'll probably do that for a few months with the second hour once we've finished it and released it. So it'll be in the next few months, the DVDs and the Blu-rays, and we'll send them initially to our backers from the Kickstarter campaigns, but then we'll make them available for where people can buy them. And eventually what we'll do is we'll have DVDs and Blu-rays and downloadable content for the entire saga. So it'll be the animatic and the audio play and all, the bonus episode and all of it, the first season in its entirety. But over the next few weeks, we're locking down representation, and we're meeting with all the major buyers. And that'll also determine, if we can ever talk to any of you ever again. And, but the comic book is, the first issue's been printed, the second issue will be printed in the next couple weeks, and then issues 3 and 4 very shortly thereafter. So yeah, and again, we've been focusing on finishing the episode, and then we can get, Tahani's done, as I said, half of the graphic novel. That's the first 3 issues, and yes, thank you. And but it's just spectacular. The second issue will be a special Mira Furlan issue, and just through the timing, we had actually gotten to the section of Mira Furlan in the prequel, And so we'll have tributes from some of her co-stars. And I wrote a piece remembering when I first met her on Babylon 5 and so forth. So, that'll be out in the next few weeks, I think, and we'll make an announcement on Mr. Sci-Fi so people can buy copies. Other questions? Yeah, over there.
Yeah, it was fun watching the clip and seeing, like it says, the who's who.
Mm.
You know, you think about the major items there. So Victor, question for Victor and
Sure.
Angelique. What's it like working with some of these actors that represent decades of sci-fi?
Sure. I think honestly, there's a part of me the instinctive reaction to respond would be intimidating, but honestly, it wasn't. And I think part of it is because, at least for me, I've been acting for about 20 years now since I started. And I think for me is one of those things that when you get on set and you know that you have to get the job done, and you're performing, your brain it's not a survival mode because you want to be smart enough to be able to adapt and adjust to direction and what the other actors are giving you. So you put yourself in a position of getting the job done. I mean, at least that's the way that worked for me, and it sort of hits you later. That kind of thing of go like, oh, that's Doug Jones that I met. Like, actually, I've never actually gotten to work with him face to face. We met at one of the other conventions previously a few years back, and then I got to work next to James, and it was one of those things that it's later, it's after it happens that there's an afterthought that you go, oh yeah, this person was in Blade Runner.
Yes.
This person was in one of my favorite sci-fi films of all time. So I think that's the way that happened for me.
Yeah. And for me, I think it's just a very humbling experience. I mean, I know Robert Picardo and meeting Nichelle Nichols. I haven't had scenes with them yet, in scenes personally, but I have worked with them on the coordinating side of things. And it's really wonderful. Nichelle Nichols is so sweet. She's so humble. She's so kind. Robert Picardo, such a sweet soul. So I've had wonderful experiences working with all of them, including Doug Jones. And I've also coordinated with Christina Moses as well. So it's been great. It's been great.
I also go talking a little bit about Mira, who passed. I never got a chance to work with her, and this is just me wanting to say, I remember the last thing that we did together was when we were doing the audiobook. And there was something that had happened since the first time I met her during a convention where we exchanged looks and we kind of smile at each other. It was this sort of silent understanding of kindred spirits. And after we filmed when we did the audio book, I remember I told her, I know that we haven't really worked, but I really feel this. And she's like, no, I know. She was like, I understand what you mean. And we had that moment of, well, I look forward to getting to do more of this with you. It's not going to be the case anymore, sadly, at least not in the physical realm. But I just wanted to point that out just as a way of giving a little bit of recognition and honor to her, who has been in so many influential stories of the science fiction world.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, she was spectacular. See, the thing that's fascinating is, a lot of people in Hollywood are very arrogant, and I rebel against that. Because if you come to this with confidence and humility, then you can bring aboard people who have a lifetime career, like Doug Jones or whomever, or James Hong, and then you also recognize talent that's just getting started or is only been working for a few years. And so for me, what determines who we bring aboard is what they can deliver, and...
I mean, we've been extremely lucky with all the casting because these aren't people who act, they're people who react and are in the moment. And both the people who have long careers and people who are just having, breaking out. With the actors that we were able to select, do act in the moment, and they don't indicate. They're there,
Yes.
they're planted. And so whatever's going on, they're there in the moment. And we have the power of the close-up. I mean, we're lucky because, as they say, 99% of good directing is casting.
Yes, yes.
And so...
Or marrying someone you can direct with who's better than you. Yeah, exactly, 'cause that's my excuse.
All we try to do is create a safe place for our actors,
Yes.
and then cast well. Like with Jack, our Captain Jack, he had that. We wanted that basic Henry Fonda decency,
Yes,
and that's what we got.
yes, yes, yes.
That's what we got.
Yeah, and it's just been a joy. The only actors who have been a major problem for us were those two damn dogs, and that's our fault because we picked them, you know. So, but other
Next
questions?
time, buy organic.
So other questions, guys, or we can also talk about where Space Command is headed. The show covers 150-year, well, actually 180-year span in the lives of our characters. So it's multi-generational. It's a big story. It starts in our solar system and then jumps to the larger galaxy. It's just got a lot of great, cool stuff in it. Characters that you see in the first few hours, you'll see again later, and you'll also meet new characters like Armin Shimmerman, who plays, interestingly enough, Robert Picardo's grandson. Interestingly, so that's very fun. And so they, male pattern baldness, and but it's just super fun. And it's funny in terms of Doug Jones. I met Doug when I won the Saturn Award a few years ago, and Doug was there, and he was just wearing this amazing Victorian jacket. And I went up to compliment him on the jacket, and then he introduced himself, and it was Doug Jones. And oddly enough, I was writing a book with Guillermo del Toro at the time, so I invited Doug to lunch a few days later, and he has such a great face, such a sensitive face, and it's such a shame that it's always covered, whether it's in Shape of Water or Star Trek Discovery. So I said to him, I'm going to write a role for you, and we're going to see your face. And the funny thing was, he was very nervous about getting all of his lines correct, so we had an actor who was reading the lines with him, running the lines all day long, and he was perfect, letter perfect. The only time he blew his line was he was in a scene with Ethan McDowell, our Captain Jack Kimmer, and he was looking at him, and he thought to himself, my God, that guy's good looking. And so he forgot his line. and Doug's straight, he's in a marriage. But that was really funny. And but it's just been a great experience, and I just love it. So other questions? We have a few more minutes. Please, yes.
Is there going to be a video game?
Yes, there will be a video game and also a tabletop game. We just haven't gotten there yet. And and we also have action figures planned, and just the whole 9 yards of everything.
Well, and we'll be allowing the fans in, not to the actual, they won't be with Captain Jack, but we're trying to create a world where people want to be. And so accepting fans and fan fiction and
Tons of stuff.
It's tons of stuff because we came from the fan world, and here we are. We just want to share
Yeah.
this world with, and create a world where there is possibility and where the good people are people who really fight for the good.
Yes, and I love science fiction because I came up as a fan too. And Angelique mentioned Nichelle Nichols. I hadn't mentioned that she's also in Space Command, and I met her when I was 10 years old when Star Trek was on the air, and she gave me 6 of her Star Trek scripts, and we corresponded. And then I went on the set of Star Trek when I was a kid, and so to come full circle 50-some years later and be able to direct her. And when I was 10, I kept a Star Trek scrapbook, and I brought it on the day that we shot her scene in Space Command, and I showed her the photo she had signed for me and the letter she had written to me when I was 10, and she signed my Star Trek scrapbook. And just to have that full circle, and to have so many of the people I grew up just loving and admiring, to bring them in, and it's just, let's put it this way, she was astonished that I brought it that day. Did she remember me? Hell no. But
you couldn't meet anyone more charming and gracious.
Yes. After we finished shooting on that day, she said to all of us, "Thank you for gracing my home." And that, wow, I mean, amazing, wonderful. And I'd worked with George Takei on the Star Trek New Voyages episode that we co-directed and executive produced, and I co-wrote with Michael Reeves. And again, George Takei is one of a kind as well. I mean, these are amazing, amazing people. They're my heroes, and to work with them, and to work with these wonderful people on this panel, and also these heroes of mine, it's just a dream come true. And that's because of this world of science fiction that we inhabit, where the fans become the writers, and the stars come to the conventions, and the writers come to the conventions, and it isn't, if you want to meet Brad Pitt, good luck. You'll end up getting tasered by his security. But in science fiction, you can meet your heroes. And when I was a teenager, because I grew up, three shows that made me want to be a writer were Star Trek and Twilight Zone and Outer Limits, the original versions of those three shows. And I started noticing that the same writers were writing those shows, and they were also writing the books I was reading and the short stories I was reading. Theodore Sturgeon, Harlan Ellison, Ray Bradbury, on and on, and Richard Matheson, Charles Beaumont. And when I was a teenager, I started going to conventions here in San Diego, the Equicon, the FilmCon, and meeting my heroes. And Harlan and Ted Sturgeon, George Clayton Johnson, all these people became friends and mentors, Ray Bradbury. And they too had been mentored by the generation that came before them. Ray became a very good friend, and he was mentored by Lee Brackett and Henry Kuttner, the generation just before him. And Forrest Ackerman, I named David Bartlett's character Forey after the wonderful Forrest Ackerman, who I went to the Acker Mansion when I was a kid. Again, there's such a heart of generosity and paying it forward in science fiction. And I love that. It's not exclusionary. We're all oddballs, all of us, and science fiction is a big tent that welcomes all of us in if we come with a good heart, and that's for pros and fans alike. And I'm a fan to this day, and I am grateful every single day. Every single day is a blessing, and I'm thankful to all of you and to all of you. And so I don't know if there's one last question. We have to fold up our tent, but I think we've been...
Any last comments from anyone?
I just wanted to say that when we were at Michelle Nichols' house, Michelle had... we went into the dining room, and there was a large bowl filled with tribbles.
Yes, that's funny. And did you have...
That's the gentleman on the right. This is bugging me the whole time. Did you start in sound and become a critic? Started as a critic and into sound, both at the same time?
I started as a disc jockey in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And went from there into Armed Forces Radio. Then I did a ton of voiceovers for bilingual children's television on PBS, and at one time I was the voice of Mickey Mouse for the toys. So I've done a ton of things in my life, and then because I was doing so many interviews, I became familiar with sound and fell in love with doing sound. So it was just a natural adjunct.
Yeah. So just to wrap things up, as I said, if you want to be part of Space Command, if you want to build props or paint sets or buy shares in Space Command to help keep us going, we're going to be shooting in January again. We've built an alien spaceship. We're building 2 8-foot-tall creatures. It's going to be super fun.
Wow.
And our studio is down in Pico Rivera, which is just south of Los Angeles, next to Whittier. And all are welcome. And any final words from anyone else on that?
Yeah, I'm hoping that the video game is going to be the 2 dogs, the synthetics, trying to take over the world, the galaxy. But that's just, no promises.
Yeah, Angelique, anything you want to say?
I just want to say thank you, everyone, for being here.
Yeah.
Thank you all for your support. It really means a lot. So, and happy holidays.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you all. Thanks for being here,
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you, everyone.